Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
it's the advantage of that pirate mode there.
yeah, I believe both runners in their PB retrospects are pretty tight as well, so this should be a very close race coming up for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So it looks like we are getting underway now. There's a bit of a disparity here, but I'm sure that we'll get that lined up here shortly. So yeah, as Turkey basically alluded to, we start out with all of the pirate gear, so this becomes a very, very fast run right out of the gate, as you're going to see on Mamgar's screen. You know, instantly charging, being able to cannon and hover over everything with the hat, and he's got the scimitar to charge through things and slamming the things on the ground and stuff. So this opening sequence is kind of like what I like to refer to as a tutorial stage. It doesn't matter if you're in normal mode or not. They don't really explain anything. Shantae wakes up, the town's under attack, there's all these soldiers, and we're quickly met by our friends Bolo and Sky, who equip us with a pike ball and an auto potion, knowing that Shantae has been stripped of her magic based on the events of Risky's revenge. So again, we're just immediately going to go through here and maybe hit a few of these soldiers in the hopes of getting some rare drops that they could give us that would certainly help things along the way. I don't see either runner really kind of going out of their way to hit the guards all that much. And neither one really doing much in regards to farming for gems either. So following a more standard, more RNG laden route, I guess you could say, in this regard. But all of it, you know, again, doesn't matter too much. There's other things that the runners can do to kind of mitigate that. As Mamgar is now at our first boss, the Ammo Baron.
Yeah, the Ammo Baron works as pretty much he's pretty much RNG for the most part, but we know he has one of three attacks he can do. He could charge, he could shoot a black cannonball or a red cannonball. Of course, the red cannonball is the main thing that our runners would love to see, because that's the ball that they can knock back and start causing damage to the Ammo Baron. We also do know that if he starts shooting off his black cannonballs, he will not charge for that particular phase until the red cannonball has been shot out and has dissolved, whether it be from actually hitting the Ammo Baron or just accidentally face tanking it, which can happen from time to time if you're caught off guard a little bit.
Yeah, indeed. And both of these runners look like they're getting kind of middle of the road RNG. I see them attempting to try some relatively new strats found, particularly on Cabbage one, where he's shooting at the Ammo Baron's tank, which obviously the pistol shot doesn't do anything, but what he's trying to do is catch that red ball, which we found out that the risky shot, the pistol shot, actually stops the cannonball dead in its tracks. It'll just sit there and bounce for a couple of times before it explodes. And there's a perfect shot, if you can time it, where you can hit it, the red ball will drop right on the tank. So it saves a few frames, you know, in that regard. I didn't see either runner really get it. Mamgar was using kind of an alteration of that with the whipping strats, but neither one really getting too much, I think, out of it. Again, with the RNG and Ammo Baron charging, it was kind of a wash in the overall scheme. But at any rate, after defeating the Ammo Baron there, Shantae feels the need to take a bath, but then realizes, hey, she doesn't actually own a bathtub. And the nefarious Risky Boots has trapped our good heroine again in a trap, kind of using Shantae's naivete against her, but then is accusing her of stealing all of her weapons and stuff. Well, we can't really dispute that because of pirate mode. And then stealing or kidnapping her men, which she proves to us by taking us to Mimic's workshop to show us. And then this purple miasma kind of gets in the way, transforms that bat into a cackle bat, and basically, because she's unarmed, has us take care of her dirty work for her.
Yeah, I actually learned something new there. I didn't realise the pistol shot could do much for the Ammo Baron fight.
Huh. It does something. I mean, I haven't vetted it out as an official strat, but it definitely can do something, and I see some benefit there. But yeah.
Hey, I'm just happy I'm still learning more stuff. It's great.
It's kind of the fun part of this game.
Oh, definitely. So, after sorting out the Kakabat out, there's two things they've got to do. They need to collect the library card and a mandatory save before the guard of this area actually allows us to take our adventure out. So, way forward, just being nice there. Just like, we just want to make sure that we're, you know, all safe and set and ready to go for our journey up ahead. As well as on top of that, making their way through the Scarecrow fields, or as they do, they'll be more than likely hitting everything that they can along the way. I mean, Scarecrows don't necessarily have the best rate of drops overall for other runs, but there is a chance of getting either a Monster Milk or a Super Pipe Ball, as well as a regular Pipe Ball or even a Lobster Tail. The main ones being the Monster Milk and Super Pipe Ball for different reasons. But any drop there would be useful to them, at least at some point during the run. I believe both runners did get a Pipe Ball there, so they may or may not opt to use it on the way back out.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out, but both getting very similar RNG right now. But Mamgar right now in the sewers is currently using a little bit of an exploit of the game there. Those snakes, when bounced on with the pogo in a very tight area, allows you to hit their hitbox 3 times before they die. The snakes only die in 1 hit, but the hitbox lingers around to allow you to hit it 3 times. And each time you hit it, it rolls the RNG on whether or not you get a flush pop. And you need 3 to hand over to Bolo to get that key, as Mamgar just did. So, you know, sometimes these snakes can be really trolly on that, but it looks like they treated them pretty decently today. Both being able to get past the Bolo gate, get the key, and then they're going to take that brochure that they picked up right at the end of the sewers and bring it over to our good friend Squid Baron, who's going to reward us with a nice, freshly squeezed can of squid oil.
Ew.
Ew, that's exactly what Shantae says, too.
Except she sounds lovely. I just sounded like a weirdo.
Once they've gotten that, we'll go ahead and use that key to open up the palace. That Bolo installed the lock, and it was really poorly done, but he had the key for it, fortunately, which reopens the palace. We'll go in here really quick and give over our court summons that we got for beating up the official mayor of town, the Ammo Baron, and then we're going to take this map. And Mamgar is opting, obviously, to use this pike ball. It's noted to say that this is important because you cannot kill these orcs on your charge back without it. When you exit the screen, the pike ball will line up just perfectly where it'll swing and hit each orc as you go, and it'll allow you then to hit him with the charge, which will then kill him. And Cabbage is doing the same. So it gives him a chance to potentially get at least 5 gem drop, which I think both was really what they were looking for. I say Mamgar probably came up 1 gem a little shy when he got back. And again, the Scarecrows didn't seem to give a whole lot either from what I could see. So RNGs are being a little finicky, I think, for both runners right now. They're going to have to rely on their knowledge of the gems and potentially doing some additional shopping that they may not want to. But we'll see how it plays through. I mean, this is part of the fun of the game, too. No 2 runs are alike based on the RNG that you receive through the game and what drops you get. So you have to keep in mind what you've gotten thus far and what you're going to purchase and how you want to deal with each boss as you move forward. And I believe both runners buying 3 Pirate Flares, 1 Super Pike Ball, which is per standard.
Yeah, the standard for the first shop. I mean, the flares will give them the ability to warp directly back to the beginning of the island once they're done with certain dens of evil. That's usually the primary point. And the Super Pipe Ball purchase is used for a dungeon ahead of this, so that's just prepping them up in time, ready for that boss fight as they make their way through Saliva Island. Nice few little bits of aquatic life here. I mean, mermaids and such, crabs as well. They're just looking to pretty much get their entrance to the first lab. First of all, running into Twitch and Vinegar, and well, they're just upset. I mean, they came for a swim, nothing really there, but nice piece of ham there. So at least there's food.
All right, and you're going to see Mamgar there. Those 3 pauses are actually intentional. It wasn't like an overmash for skipping dialogue. That pausing sequence there allows us to skip a few seconds of cutscene with the Gigalumix there, who normally would sniff in the ham, blink his eyes open first, then slowly open his mouth and start drooling. That pausing sequence, for whatever reason, skips the blinking and allows him to do that. As Cabbage is going full ham here, he actually gets the cut as well. So if you trigger that dialogue in motion, you can fall off that ledge, and that actually saves the slow animation of the ham steak moving to the nostrils. Doing the pausing then blinks that one, so he gets the maximum amount of time save by pulling that off there. So very well done by Cabbage.
Yeah, and I believe that's going to pull both runners roughly 4 to 5 seconds apart now. I mean, unfortunately, so we do apologize, the stream's not currently synced at this point, but I believe they're about 5 seconds apart. So far, pretty close race going in.
Yeah, we've got about a 10-second disparity between the two streams at this point. I'd say it's probably a little closer than it looks, and it may even be closer than the 5 seconds. I think about it. I need to pay attention. Oh, looks like we're getting synced up now, so we'll get a better picture of exactly where our two runners are together, but I believe that they are extremely close.
Yeah, I'd say 5 seconds was being on a bit of the safe side on my part. It could very well be closer. So, well, we're going to find out momentarily.
Oh, looks like there was just maybe some drop frames or something there. It's still about 10 seconds. So, you know, again, we really quick just to talk about it. So, yeah, they open the dungeon using this petrify spell. Well, the old man uses the petrify spell. And what he was wanting to do was bring his dead fiance or petrified fiance back to life. And unfortunately, petrify spells don't quite work that way. The combined weight of somebody gaining mass because they get turned to stone, I'm not sure how that works either physically. But it opens up our first den of evil. But our first little side trip here is into this retro dungeon. You see both runners in right now, and this is an homage to the very first dungeon of the Game Boy Color Shantae, the first game in the series. You know, they've updated the monster sprites, but the layout of the land here is exactly the same, and even the music is the same music that was used in the game there. They're in here just to collect a couple of keys, and they're taking advantage of another exploit of the game, where keys are not dungeon locked as to where you pick them up. You don't have to use them there. You can take them with you. They're in your inventory, and you can use them in any dungeon. So these two keys here are going to save a significant amount of time later in the overall run, and it's just worth this little time save and divergence. Plus, it's really cool that you get to play around in this little Easter egg from Way Forward.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorry. Yeah, getting those keys, I'll help them out later on, as you mentioned. I believe now we go through the going through a spittle maze, and we'll be coming up to a little gauntlet room with a couple of wet men in here. And one thing you'll notice the runners mainly go for is grouping them up and then using the scimitar as their primary form of attack. It does do 1 point of damage less in general compared to other attacks. However, using those scimitars, it safely enables them to attack both wet men at the same time. So it essentially causes more DPS per second that they can use to their advantage before switching over and cannoning up. And yeah, that's pretty much Wetman Room. There's mamgar coming up to our first boss of the run, the Cyclops Plant.
Yep, and much like the snakes in the sewers, he's going to use that same kind of philosophy, get wedged up in that ceiling between the monster's hitbox and that ceiling, dealing out massive damage. If you blinked, you missed that first phase. Perfectly executing that, and he's going to try to do that again on the second phase through the bouncing here, and doing a pretty good job of that as well. So this boss probably won't be around much longer, probably a few more hits. Yep. And completes that boss. So really good run, or really good fight with Mamgar there. kabbagegame just now entering his fight. So yeah, Turkey, I think you were a little more spot on. There's actually probably about 10 to 15 seconds approximately between the two runners at this point, with Cabbage struggling to get through the dungeon a little bit.
Yeah, give or take. Unfortunately, we've still got a 10-second discrepancy between the two streams at this point, but hopefully we'll see what happens. Otherwise, we'll do our very best to try and gauge and give an accurate reading of whereabout they are, roughly, in comparison to one another.
Yeah. Cabbages was a little slower, but still well done. Didn't run into too many troubles there. Had a hiccup on the first phase, but immediately recovered from it. Wasn't knocked away from it with the knockback animation. So both runners getting past our first island without too much trouble. And we'll be now handing this map that we got at the end of that from a little Tinkerbat to move on to Spiderweb Island. And this will be our next little, I won't say sunny destination because it's kind of murky and raining and there's a thunderstorm and things are kind of icky here. But this place is infested with zombies and ghosts and just all kinds of nasty little business overall. And unfortunately also is home to one of our least favorite parts of the speed run. I know that every time anyone you've listened to commentary, we all say it's our favorite. I'm just going to be honest. We don't really like this part coming up, do we, Turkey?
No.
See, he was speechless. He's just like, I can't even talk about it anymore. But me, Mamgar, really quick. Huh?
It gives me the shivers.
Yeah, Mamgar, they're doing a quick little sequence break again. It's, with the scimitar, we're able to pick up that fossil. Normally you would backtrack here to pick that up, but because, again, we have the ability to get it now, we just go ahead and do it en route to make sure that we've got it for a later part. And Mamgar finds our good friend Ronnie Tops being caught by a giant spider. We shoot that thing away really quick, but then Roddy basically says, hey, I've been bitten. My legs are getting numb. Could you help me through this forest? And, well, Shantae, being the good friend that she is totally in accordance, but welcome to Run Roddy Tops. This is basically the game's 4.5-minute long version of an auto-scroller for us. It can't be skipped no matter what category you're in. Doesn't matter if you're doing out of bounds or not, you still have to do this part. And it's always the same no matter what category it is. So a number of different things going on here as Mamgar demonstrates kind of the main mechanic going on. This is a one-hit kill area. Anything that touches you will cause Shantae to explode, and your punishment is being sent back to the beginning of the room in which you took that hit in. So some rooms are more costlier than others, depending on where you take a hit, if you take one at all. And there's not a lot you can do to kind of advance this. You know, there's some minor movement techniques. As Gatekeeper says, no, Cabbage, where do you think you're going, for one? But then lets him by after he gets his first taste, which is nice. Sadly, having a little bit of trouble. So first tongue room right now was a little brutal to both runners. Mamgar handling it a little bit better as he managed to get a few more tongue skips. Cabbage is now opting to take it a little more cautious. Can't blame him. I kind of lost my train of thought there as I was doing the commentary on what happened to Cabbage. Oh, movement. Yes. So, like, skipping those tongues is one minor thing you can do. You can't really do much with these green spikes that you see on Mamgar's screen at this moment in time. Those are all cycle-based, and you just kind of have to wait for it and try not to take any hits there. You know, there's other things that we can do later, so we'll try to point it out here. But you really just want to avoid taking unnecessary or losing time unnecessarily by taking deaths. One thing that we do, obviously, with these gravestones, as an example, is you'll see him jumping at regular intervals. It's because we know which of these gravestones can move. We just don't know if and when they will. There's a bit of RNG there, so we just find it better to jump and avoid them in general, just so we don't get surprised by them. And again, saving time by not just taking an unnecessary death, although there's a couple that have the potential to really pincer you and give you only like a couple of frames to dodge. So normally it's just better to stay away. We got these kissy robots that just want to give Shantae a big fat juicy smooch, but we really don't want a part of that. And this is one of the more lengthy rooms because it just winds around and back and forth. You know, it's not a particularly hard room or dangerous because you can outrun the robots a little bit, and all you have to do is know that they're coming, get out of the way, and just keep going. So both runners... Oh no, Cabbage just got a pincer in the first gravestone room. That's unfortunate, and that was kind of what I was referring to with the potential being pincered. Zero, it does not only do this one. We've been on a few of them. It kind of rotates around based on what the schedule availability for speed gaming is. So it's not always on this channel, and sometimes this channel is linked to the past. It again just comes down to scheduling. All right, Mamgar dealing with the Stevens. Oh, he tried to come up short because the gates of hell were going to be closed and didn't quite get over enough and landed on one of those. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but now he's got, yeah, the mini Stevens had him kind of pincered. He was going to take another death there. So Gates of Hell room is really not treating Mamgar very nice. It's allowing Cabbage to make up a little bit of ground here right now. And yes, we just call those snakes Stevens. I don't know why, but they just look like Stevens, and it's been kind of unilaterally accepted by the community. Actually, Cabbage Game, the runner on the left, is the one who came up with the name, and we just kind of all adopted it.
Pretty much. Mamgar going for the final room of the section. Everything that they've experienced through Run Rocky Tops will come into play in this area, so got to be a bit careful. And this room is a pretty damaging one. Should you get caught at the end, could cost our runners a good 30 seconds roughly. So that's the last thing they'd want to see.
Cabbage getting the Gates of Hell opened on his trip through this very dangerous room here. So very fortunate. Again, he made up a lot of ground with some of the trouble there as he's going into the last room. As Mamgar did escape finally and is free of the Run Roddy Top's nightmare. We'll be dropping her off at home with her brother Abner, and that's where we find out that Roddy was, of course, just faking it. She's a zombie. This fighter can't really do anything to her. But she just wanted to hang out with her good friend Shantae, even for a little bit. I just wished it was in a different place.
Yeah. That's all right. My feeling with that, but yeah.
Yeah, fair. All right, well, she's given over the squid oil to Poe there, who needed it to repair the wagon. And as a reward, he takes us on a little spin and then gives us a little token of his appreciation. Sadly, every time that we get this little token of appreciation, it does smell. Don't know why. It's just one of those weird text boxes in the game that we're not able to skip for any reason. So, way forward, really pounding it home for us that that shriveled thing definitely smells. And as happy as Shantae is to receive that wonderful gift, she immediately hands it off to this dungeon, who was very hungry and is very appreciative and will let us inside for having fed it. I'm not sure why dungeons are alive in this game, but they all talk. Well, most of them do.
Well, there's weirder things to be sure. But
Fair.
yeah, this Den of Evil Cackle Tower. Again, our runners are going to be taking a slight deviation to grab another key to stockpile up on top of what they've already collected. There are multiple different keys that you could get throughout the run, but most runners tend to go for this key in particular. This key has a couple of enemies, and one in particular knows the Bat Lady that has at least a potential chance to drop either a Super Monster Milk, a Super Pipe Ball, or a Pirate Flare. And that potential item drops is one of the main reasons why a lot of runners go in for this route. I mean, Mamgar getting lucky there when he's going through those skeletons, getting a Super Pipe Ball drop, getting two Super Pipe drops, sorry. I miscounted for a second.
And the Monster Milk from the Batgirl. I mean, that's insanely good RNG for Mamgar right there. He's got to be very happy with this right now, because that certainly helps a ton.
Oh, that's going to pay off very well for him at this point. He's going to be very happy to see that.
Yeah. We'll see what kabbagegame gets as he's looks like we're synced up now, and we're going to see exactly just what the deficit is between these runners. It's not that big because, again, Roddy Top's kind of equalizing. Cabbage looks like he did not manage to get a regular pike ball up to this point, so he's going to have an extra cycle with this Batgirl. Normally you'd want to kill her in 3, but he's going to have to deal with 4. Ooh, almost got 5, and unfortunately is rewarded with nothing. So coming up very dry, didn't get anything from the skeletons on the way in, and the Batgirl denies him as well. So RNG definitely favoring Mamgar at this point.
Yeah, fortunately when it comes to RNG in this game, there are multiple points where RNG can play a factor, so even if one section does troll one of our runners, there are other sections that could very well play in their favour. So things could easily balance out in the RNG department as the run goes on.
Yeah, true. It feels like it sways. Like you have your first part of your run just loaded with stuff, but then suddenly everything just dries up, and other ones you don't get anything for a while, and all of a sudden the floodgates open and you're just bathed in items. So we'll see how things go. But Mamgar currently on our next boss, the Empress Spider, Chit Chat Queen Royale, and he's attempting to do a bit of a strat that our good lad Turkey here kind of handcrafted himself. Using that Super Pike Ball, which we would have bought earlier in the run, or if we picked up if we chose not to get it, and get wedged in that hitbox. And what happens is if you whip right before you take damage, Shantae will take a stun, and that stun allows you to jump again. It actually recharges Shantae's jump as well as the cannon. And you just want to kind of stay in that hitbox, let that Super Pike Ball do the bear the load, add in some whip strikes to make sure that you don't take the knockback animation as Cabbage just did. And really would get that damage out of there. It's a little risky strat. You have the chance of losing your auto potion if things don't quite go well. I see Cabbage now currently trying to get it as well, but being a little cautious about it as his health is starting to dwindle down. So hopefully he won't lose his auto potion. Mamgar doing just fine and not losing his, as he's got his next map and will be on his way to Tanline Island here.
Yeah, Tanline Island. They're only going to be here for a brief moment to start with. Going to run into an old friend, the Squid Baron. They're just going to pick up an X-ray, a set of X-ray specs. Sorry, even now I'm slowing my words. Great. But need to get them to then be able to start their first main fetch quest of the run, where they need to find these 3 sarcophagi and be able to obtain 3 pieces of code from them so they can enter the next temple of this game, Tantline Island, which is also where you will see some keys come into play. The stockpile keys come into play at that point of the run. We'll touch on it a bit more as we get there, but for now, we'll see how things go. I believe Mamgar getting a super pipe ball from the Scorp Gal, opting to take the chance on the Scorp Gal grinding and paying off for him, so fair play.
Yeah, at this point, he's going to start looking to get some more super monster milks. I think he's only about 1 super pipe ball short for what he needs for the rest of the run at this point, so getting that drop certainly useful, but he definitely wants to start adding to his DPS by getting some of those milks. So I anticipate maybe we'll see a few more other points where he goes, and we'll see what kabbagegame gets here on his charge through the cactuses. A regular monster milk, it's a pretty good drop. You definitely want to see that. Certainly not going to complain about it, as it looks like hopefully RNG will start to open up a bit for Cabbage here. He's opting to go after that Scorp Gal as well, and is rewarded with a super pipe ball. So he's already got at least something to cheer about going through the first part and the first visit to Tantline Island. And these runners are going to have to start a fetch quest, as you see Mamgar doing right now. So they'll have another chance at getting some of these drops from the early parts of Tantline as they do return here later. But first, they have to return back to Saliva Island here. The Squid Baron gave us these X-ray specs, and we need it to be able to look for some codes, which are gathered in these sarcophagi that are just kind of around. Obviously, our runners know where they are, so they're making a beeline there. Mamgar struggled a bit with that mermaid row. He's a little low on health, so he's going to need to be very cognizant of that, as it may be a bit before his next potential refill of life.
Yeah, based on his item drops, he may consider the 2-shot route by going with picking up all his flares at his next shop. So we'll see what he decides to go with at that point.
Yep. And Cabbage there whipping, and as you saw Mamgar do as well, that wall. They weren't doing that just out of frustration, or they're not crazy or anything. There's actually 3 pots in that wall, totaling 30 gems. So whipping your way up there obviously breaks those pots open. You use the lamp to just suck those gems right in. So good source of money on route. It never hurts to grab it. And Mamgar is currently going to buy just 3 pirate flares and another super pipe ball. So he's going to bank on some RNG luck with the cactuses and the Scorp Gals, I think, for milks, but he should have all of his super pipes for the rest of the run at this point.
Interesting choice. I mean, most runners normally go for a super monster milk if they go for the free flare route, but...
True, but he just got 2 monster milks from the cacti, so it looks like his gamble's paying off a little bit.
I spoke too soon, but finally I speak too soon for the better.
Yeah, it's all worked out. Cabbage, luckily remembering that he hadn't killed off Joe, by the way, to get this sarcophagi code. He was on his way to risky and caught himself and turned back around before he actually boarded the ship. And 2 more super pikes for Mamgar on the way back from the Branson sword pickup. So, wow, RNG just continues to shower Mamgar in ways like you don't normally see, especially with runners in veteran status, because we have this meme in the community that the longer you run this game, the less kind the game treats you. At least it feels that way.
Oh, definitely.
All right. Cabbage got himself another monster milk on the cactus charge, so that'll be helpful. It's not the most ideal item. You'd rather see supers, but those only come from the Scorpion Gals and Wolves later on the later island, as he also manages to net a super pipe ball from the last skeleton on the way into the sword. So we'll see what he gets on the way back out, as Mamgar has opened up his way into Tantline Temple. Turkey, if you could talk about Metal Gear Shantae for us.
Of course. Metal Gear Shantae, the stealth section of the run. A bit like Run Right Top's a set piece that they're going to be going through. Aim of the game, do not get caught. Of course. Unfortunately, unlike Run Right Tops, you get caught, it doesn't send you to the beginning of the screen that you're on. It will send you straight back to the beginning of the entire temple. So it's a very devastating thing to get caught by any guard at this point, but especially from one of the last guards. If they were to get caught there, they're looking at a 1 minute plus time loss. and that can easily do damage to their run and allow their opponents back into a run potentially. It's also where, as mentioned earlier, the keys that was being stockpiled throughout this run will come back into play. You need 3 keys before you can actually finish this temple off completely, but by the time they end up in this slab, they've already got 2, so you need to collect that 1 on route, get through the final set of guards, and then head straight for the center to be able to finish off this temple, effectively cutting 2/3 of what this lab has to offer.
Yeah. And Mamgar taking the last guard room very cautiously, and I don't fault him. In a race situation, it's better to do that because that room costs you between 45 seconds to a minute tops, depending on how quickly you get caught and which guard really gets you. So being very careful there, and looks like Cabbage is also taking things a little cautious, at least in the vertical chain room. Again, don't blame either runner for this particular one in a race setting, just because it's very detrimental to get captured and be taken all the way back to your prison cell and have to start the entire sequence over. So
Definitely not.
All right, so Mabgar's freeing all of our friends here, which, just to add a side note, we're all kidnapped. If you're wondering why Sky and Ronnie Tops are here, I think you know why Risky's there, because she's our mode of transport around the world. But Sky came here looking for a cure for her petrified Joe. Ronnie, of course, wanted to just follow along with Shantae and join in the adventure. And all the girls landing here all get kidnapped by this group of wolf clan. And we're going to find out why. We've been mistaken for that princess, at least the statue in the background, and actually the princess who enters the room there. Problem is, she's only been gone for 30 minutes, and the old man there basically admits that this happens a lot. So, not the first ones to be kidnapped. I'm going to wager they won't be the last ones either. If the princess decides that she wants to go get some French bread, you might anticipate others to fall prey.
So pretty much a little communication goes a long way.
Yeah, usually you think, hey, I'm going to go out to the store, I'll be back in like 30 minutes. And either they're very forgetful, or maybe the princess isn't able to communicate or not willing to communicate to her vassals. I don't know. But our reward for all of this is the golden pickaxe as an apology for the mix-up. And we get to use that with one of the ruin clearers over there, and they quickly dispatch that and get out of the way and open our way to the next den of evil, which will be the Lost Catacombs.
Yeah, in the Lost Catacombs is where the scimitar would usually be picked up from, but of course we've already got it, so it depends on which way the runners want to go. There is an optional key that our runners could go for in this lab, mainly for the extra opportunity of the drop from another Scorp Gal. It does cost a little more time to go for, but if you get one of those major drops, it's definitely worth it. Otherwise, apart from that, they'll be going straight through the purple block room, go through the floor, and then head straight up to our next boss. But a couple of things they've got to get through first before they get to our kind little friend at the end of this dungeon.
Yes, and as you see, Mamgar obviously did opt to just go down the purple room. He did get a monster milk for it, and he took on this gauntlet room, which has cactuses and that mantis thing, and then 2 Scorp Gals. And the last Scorp Gal rewarding him with a super monster milk, which is exactly what he's looking for. Nice. So, and also getting the 1 cycle crusher, I believe. I might have missed that because I was keeping an eye on Cabbage there very quickly. But I believe he just actually 1 cycled the crusher room. Sure did. Yep. So, really good job by Mamgar on that one, too, and not using the traditional method to kind of time that out. He's got a innate sense of just basically knowing when to trigger things, so fair play to him. You're going to see Cabbage out to go for the optional key in the catacombs as well, so this is what Turkey was referring to. There's another Scorp Gal there. There's a key that he'll use to skip a later part, as Mamgar is basically manhandling our pal, the Squid Baron there, using full buffs. He'll be way ahead of the script at this point. Actually, you know, it looks like he'll be right on the script. So, a scripted fight with this. The Squid Baron works in cycles. He does a charge, he does a jumping phase, and he does another charging phase. And ideally what you do is you take him out during the second charging phase, because then after that, when he does his armor, you crack that open, he'll go right into an eating phase, and you just out DPS his healing there. And as Mamgar basically did there, did have a little rough ending to it, but no big deal because he still wins, and you get a free heal up from that, so no big deal. And the Gauntlet Room giving 2 Super Monster Milks to kabbagegame, so he's going to be extremely happy to see that as well. I'm very jealous of this RNG. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, well, where's this when we race?
Never. It's never there. Cabbage getting crushed by the Crusher. Did not have his timing right. Oh, and getting it again, trying to get into that alcove. So Cabbage having a little bit of trouble with the Crusher room right now. Fortunately, once you've broken a block, unless you reset the room by going out and back in, able easily to drop in there. So unfortunate for Cabbage. He's going to be going in relatively low health. I don't blame him going for a couple of these hearts just to make sure he's got enough health, even though the Super Monster Milk will fill him up with 1 heart of health regeneration. So no big there. We'll see how his Squid Baron fight goes.
I'm pretty sure both runners are at least near enough set in terms of item management, although I'm not 100% as to how many bubbles each runner has. I mean, I'm pretty sure Cabbage at least has 1.
I don't think either runner has gotten a bubble shield from what I've noticed. I was looking at Cabbage's menu just now, but I was paying attention to his items set up in relation to Monster Milks and Pike Balls. I think Cabbage is still a little short for what he wants for the remainder of the run.
He's at least got a bubble. I don't know about Mamgar though.
I just saw Mamgar's menu not too long ago. He definitely doesn't have a bubble in tow yet, so it's the only thing he's really missing. It's also the cheapest item you really need to worry about in the run. Unfortunately, it means he might have to take a 3rd shot just for the safety, which is required on the last boss unless you're crazy like Turkey here and takes on the Pirate Master without a bubble. But yeah.
Not in a tournament setting, forget that.
Yeah, it's an extremely nasty fight that you do not want to take on without a bubble. But Mamgar quickly getting through our Mudbog Island section and entering the Village of Lost Souls. And you'll see him pretty much ignoring things. He's going to go around to locate these coins really quick. We're going to need those for a very skill-based game. One that all of us runners love to play. And yeah, he'll be picking each one of those up. So I don't think he's got anything for animation skips. If things are a little bit more in tune RNG wise, maybe you would have a pack of potions to skip these. But neither runner really getting fortunate in the ability to skip these animations today. Just kind of sad, but you know, you have to deal with what you're handed in this game.
Yeah, but both runners getting very respectable items, at least in the offensive style, so I'm pretty sure they're willing to accept that sacrifice.
Yeah, as
Nori alluded to, they're collecting these coins up to play. Was it a skill game? You say?
Yeah, I said it's very skill-based.
Very skillful game.
Yes.
Oh yeah, very skill-based, and it's a riveting game known as Heads and Tails, everybody. So yeah, pretty much what they'll do is they'll be just family game of Heads and Tails, and as long as they have the right skill and the right methodology, they'll get everything that they want out of it.
Hey, being able to guess RNG could be counted as a skill, though, right?
Well, yeah, no, I don't know, really, actually. I'm just saying words right now.
I'm with you. All right, so Mamgar's just got his last coin there. If you're wondering why he was shooting into that wall with the ghost room, he was picking up 30 coins. There's 3 pots in that wall, and he can hit with the pistol. So he's looking to get a little bit of extra money. He's not 100% satisfied with what he's got, although I don't know what else he needs to buy. Maybe 1 extra Monster Milk, like 1 Super Monster Milk. He knows he needs a bubble, and he's probably looking to at least buy a 3-pack of potions, probably just for endgame stuff. So that would be my guess. I'm not in his brain. I'm not sure what he's thinking, but I think that's how I'd handle it given the RNG there. But he gets through Heads and Tails not too bad. Fortunately, this game doesn't go on forever. There is a kind of a fail-safe in place that's programmed by Way Forward, where if you lose 3 times in a row, or like 3 times throughout the entire segment, the 4th time that you do the Heads and Tails game, you're going to get it right no matter what you pick. So fortunately, the game is not completely heartless and would leave you there playing that game forever. You just kind of basically pick heads because menuing is slow, and kind of hope for the best. Although some runners have recently adopted the heads, tails method, where if they get heads from the first two, they'll switch it down to tails for the red gamer, and sometimes it pays off, and other times it doesn't. Again, it's just kind of what do you think's going to happen, and hope for the best.
Yeah, just to allude on Mamgar's shopping from a moment ago, I reckon he might consider a Super Monster Milk. I think he may have all the milks he wants, but he may only have or had 2 Super Monster Milks, so may consider adding that buff. But he definitely still needs to pick up 2 flares, or at least 1 flare for the run, but 2 flares ideally, to be sure. But of course, we'll see what comes up when he gets there. But yeah, we can't. It's shopping in this game. The flares are usually the mandatory thing, but everything else is runner's choice, dependent on their situation.
Yeah, the flares are probably the most important thing here, as we get Cabbage Game going up to his heads, tails. Let's see, so tails, heads, sticks with heads, and his tails by the red gamer.
Ooh.
Yeah, that happens, unfortunately. It looks like he'll be running into the fail-safe here. I think he got tails by the blue gamer again, so now he'll just do heads all the way across, get his reward, the locket, which we'll give to that healthy-looking, totally not Roddy Tops girl, who gives us that flame. He'll be picking up his Old Spice from the Shadow Man, as Mamgar currently is working on Dagron. Dagron's a feisty one. He's known to kill runs left and right, but again, having full buffs, not too much trouble there. He did get juggled around a little bit, but fortunately it was still early in the fight, as Dagron has this mechanic of going faster the more damage he takes. Having that happen early means it's still under control. You're able to get out of his way instead of tanking 2 hits, and Mamgar then puts Dagron to sleep. So well fought by Mamgar, yeah.
I think that was a free rounder, but took him down in 2, so very, very nice fight.
Yeah, it was well handled. I mean, again, missing that one opportunity there by taking the hit, but doing it in 3 cycles, you can't ask for too much better.
No, definitely not.
And I didn't get a chance to allude to it, but you'll see on Cabbage Games, this is Cabbage Game's screen, this is where the Risky Shuffle really shines. This dungeon is relatively long. This is normally where you pick up the boots to allow you to do the Risky Charge. And because of the Risky Shuffle, that little back and forth swagger there, you're able to charge up it in a small area, and we skip the major mechanic of this dungeon, which is that elevator puzzle. You need to get them lined up to be able to charge, but Risky Shuffle just allows you to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going right to the boss, and Cabbage there demonstrating exactly how it is, as Mamgar comes up on Frostbite. So, Turkey, I'll hand it over to you.
Right, so, sir. Right, well, Frostbite is pretty straightforward. Generally, you want to keep your charge and just stay airborne for the most part. Our runners may opt to, if they feel as though their items are a little lower or not as preferable as they would like, to kill the wolves that are along the path, which they can kill with the Risky Charge itself. They don't have very much health, and the item drop table is very low, but you do have a chance of a Super Monster Milk or a Super Pipe Ball. However, the thing with them is, if you do accidentally lose your speed booster and happen to take a hit from them, they're one of the hardest hitting general enemies of the game, doing 6 points of damage, and on a 2-heart run, that's 3/4 of your life. So you certainly don't want to end up getting a Pixel of Doom, as I'm going to now dub it for some random reason, because why the hell not?
yeah. Corners are the actual worst boss of this game. If you hit a wrong corner pixel, it just stops Shantae in her tracks, and it's not expected. As Cabbage finishes off Dagron using a regular Monster Milk, regular Pike Ball, only really missed him once, and you kind of missed him on the middle cycles, but taking it extremely cautious for that setup. Well played by Cabbage, given the resources that he decided to use, and then his run will continue.
Oh yeah!
Yeah, definitely nice. As Mamgar now going to make his way through Propeller Town. This section is, well, it's usually very short in an out of bounds run, but being no out of bounds, they've got to go all the way around and about to make their way. This area is very nicely done in the sense of how all the Pirate Master equipments really mesh well together. And I know you've alluded to before in previous runs, Nori, that although you're not supposed to have the cannon at this point, it somewhat feels like that it was also made with the cannon slots at least somewhat in mind, because it just fits perfectly well. at the same time.
You're able to just float across everything here, and I think Way Forward designed it very, very well to complement both modes. You would normally have the hat here and use the airflows, but I think it works very well with the cannon too, so I think it's a good mishmash of both modes in planning and design.
Yeah, although mamgar has took 2 points of damage, I'm curious. Do you think he'd attempt the auto potion jump in that position?
Yeah, he just did, and unfortunately was not able to get it. That's an extremely precise jump. You get a 2-frame window, and what he was trying to do was use the air potion or the auto potion in midair after using his cannons optimally. And if you hold a direction while that's going off, Shantae will stand on, and I'll use air quotes, ground for like 2 frames. And you have that window to do another full jump and then be able to use your cannons again because the auto potion will recharge your cannon strikes for whatever reason. Sadly, not getting it this time, but at least a good attempt at it. You know, people are starting to feel like it's now worth giving it a go. It also, obviously, if you fail it, well, even if you get it or fail it, you're still down an auto potion. So there goes your safety net for the run. Cabbage, obviously, not having one, I wouldn't expect to go for this trick, but you know, if you've got the confidence on the last 2 bosses of the game and you don't feel that you need that little extra net of safety, it's definitely worth going for, as it saves a good chunk of time, good about 7 seconds overall, considering the pause to take damage and the menuing involved. So fair play to him for trying. Yeah.
I mean, from a time perspective, I mean, a 7-second potential gain to a roughly 5-second potential loss. Mm-hmm. Not really too major to make you for you to think, oh, I don't want to go for it. But the biggest risk is you sacrificing your safety net, as you mentioned. Yeah. So going for that, he must at least feel comfortable enough for the remainder of the run with this setup to be able to do it without being too worried about potentially taking death. But he may also consider a safety save just in case. But of course, we'll see what he chooses.
Yeah, it's definitely runner's preference and down to the confidence level there. But with full buffs in play, I don't know, the last 2 bosses, unless you're really having a bad or off day, aren't that big of a threat when you've got a super monster milk and a super pike ball in there. As Mamgar completes his final shop to get the flares he needed as well as the bubble, I think he's got to be very careful of the fact that he just menued over the bubble there. So if he accidentally uses the shoulder triggers to use an item, and I hope he's aware that that did move, he may burn his bubble, and that would be very unfortunate.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, on his way, sorry, to do this. Well, he's been doing his final quest at this point. Actually, did he go back to Spiderweb?
He did. Yeah, he turned in. He basically went back. He got the soul identified. So this is part of a little bit of a fetch quest bit to be able to open our next dungeon. And he's just giving the sword over to legally distinct He-Man, and we'll be flaring away. Did not get Turkey's favorite trick, I'm afraid. Sorry, Turkey. We've seen it a fair enough times in this tournament. You can't be too.
I don't care. I'm greedy. I want to see more. Anyway.
Well, we'll see if Cabbage gets it when he gets there, but go ahead, Turkey.
Oh no, I was just going to say I was paying attention to Cabbage's side when I was confused about whether or not he went back for the soul, so that was all.
Oh, okay. I heard you say anyway. So, at any rate, using the soul really quick, we resurrect Joe. Because he's been petrified and hung out with Sky, apparently he could still hear everything going on. He had a lot of time to think. Decided, there's plenty of fish in the sea, and he immediately breaks up with her, which is very unfortunate. Sky's not too happy, but we're going to get out of that awkward situation, hand over that targeting module, which Ammo Baron puts to immediate use and wants to blow up the palace, but as you see, that shot goes a little astray and lands on Frostbite, sending our friend Techno Baron into the 4th game in the series, Half Genie Hero, but opening our next den of evil, the Abandoned Factory.
Yeah, within the Abandoned Factory, depends on what keys they went for. I believe, what was it? Cabbage went for the additional key, Mamgar chose not to. So Mamgar will need to collect 3 keys in this lab to open all the doors. It's a pretty straightforward lab in general. He'll get a set of keys, he'll move forward, try and avoid the ice block of death, which has some RNG, well, not really RNG on this, sorry, more of a cycle base on how it works. Usually, some runners will opt to make sure that they at least have a potion or a food item to do an animation skip on the key to essentially eliminate that potential risk. But apart from that, it's there's not much going on really here.
All right, well,
they'll be making their way to the next den of evil. Sorry, go for it.
Cabbage did give that nice care package to legally distinct E-Man there, so at least he got 1 of 2 in this race.
Yay! I can sleep well tonight.
Oh, Mamgar just barely dodging the ice block of doom, just barely beating the cycle there. So fortunately, didn't get crushed by that, which would have just only sent him back to the beginning of that room. No big deal. But narrowly getting through as he's gone into our next boss, the Steel Maggot. And we basically affectionately call this guy RNG the boss. Because those buttons on the back have to be pressed in a specific order to expose his weak spot on the tail. And there's no way of knowing what that code is. You have to play a bit of a guessing game. As Mamgar finally squeaks it out, but not quite getting the pincer between the wall there, or the ceiling there, and the tail. So not getting as much damage as he'd like to in the first phase, but with a super pike ball and a regular monster milk in here, depending on how well he gets this one, he could still squeak out a 2. I'm going to say he's going to go 3 with that adjustment. So not the most optimal fight for Mamgar, but he's taking it safe. He's not taking damage, which is the important thing. Those shots that come out when you guess the code wrong are worth 1 heart of damage, and you definitely don't want to take too many of those as Mamgar finishes up that fight. Not bad considering a regular monster milk. A little bit of missing of the buttons there, but overall well played by him.
Yeah, Cabbage making his way through as well. Will be opting to at least skip one of these keys, as he's already got 1 in backlog. So, I believe.
Yep.
He's probably going to be skipping the last key then.
Yeah, it looks like he grabbed the vertical one, so here he probably will just opt to just go right across, which pretty much takes that ice block out of play because the cycle that it runs on hasn't even really kicked in fully. So it's a much safer way of going about it if you don't want to take the time loss for potentially getting struck. We'll see how his Steel Maggot fight goes. I don't know that he's got an extra bubble in play, but wow, apparently Cabbage knows the code. Because without hesitating, he's basically in there whipping out damage. Not quite getting that pike ball in play there, but again, gotta be happy about that first cycle.
Well,
second cycle as well. All right, so as Cabbage is taking on that fight there, you'll see on Mamgar's screen that we've reawakened the Pirate Master, and he's not too happy with our friend Risky. Basically takes her away. I guess I can't fault the guy. I mean, when somebody who works for you throws a mutiny and then wears your face as part of your gear after he's been kind of dispatched, I'd probably be a little upset as well. But after that point, he basically takes over the palace and Scuttletown in general. And everything's kind of dark and spooky, but Mamgar is currently doing his final charge towards the Pirate Master's palace, and we'll be having our fateful encounter with our final boss.
Flare activated.
Yeah, but just before that, they've got what simply known as a tower climb. Usually, in a general run, you're supposed to go through what's known as the Pirate Master's trials when they get to the Pirate Master's palace. Fortunately, though, regardless of whether it's out of bounds or no out of bounds, there are ways of getting past that. In this case, what you'll be seeing is by using the cannon at optimal altitude, as well as operating the hat at least at 2 points during that occasion, because the hat actually pushes you up about a pixel or 2, roughly. It will actually allow our runners to be able to just nudge themselves up just about enough to reach the higher plane, so they can just outright skip these trials, just like that.
Yeah, and any casual player of this game, upon seeing this, was like, you can do that, because they aren't very fond of what lies within those doors throughout this climb. Mamgar struggling just a little bit, but he's getting it reined under control as he's going to end his tower climb right about now, so not too bad. Missing a few, and heads into our final boss. He's opting not to use his safety save. Remember, he does not have his auto potion, as he did attempt to do the auto potion jump, so we're going to keep a close eye on Mamgar here as he begins his fight with the Pirate Master, which is a little bit of RNG in the regards of where he teleports. the most optimal you'd like to see is between one of the edges in the middle, just kind of back and forth, as you're seeing right there with Mamgar. So he's getting very fortunate puck. As he teleports further away, though, you're going to lose a little bit of DPS opportunity. Having that bubble, as you can see, those purple orbs that the Pirate Master shoots, those do 8 points of damage. That would one-shot Shantae at this point. But that bubble shield totally negates projectiles, even the ones of his caliber. And you could just completely ignore that and worry about focusing on getting that damage in there. Mamgar finishing off the Pirate Master very handily with a real time of 54.46, but an SRL reported time 54.52, which improves his SRL personal best, and I believe it's potentially an actual real PB for him as well.
I believe it is as well. I'm pretty sure his actual PB is in the 55, so...
Yeah, so I mean, sub 55 is really good. Yeah.
So very nicely done. GG.
Yeah, GG to Mamgar. We'll confirm that PB status if he's going to join us for an interview. His Cabbage Game now currently, he just finished his climb, is now entering his fight with the Pirate Master as well. So really close race between these two, considering. It was kind of a bit back and forth, and I know Cabbage had to struggle with RNG. In fact, he's using a regular pike ball with a super monster mode. So this could get a little hairy for Cabbage Game.
Yeah, fortunately, Pirate Master isn't too trolly overall. His main bit of RNG is where about he teleports. Apart from that, as long as he gauges him correctly, Pirate Master should go down without too much hassle. But there is that risk of his laser attack at the end of his cycle, where that would outright kill Shantae as well.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of attacks that Pirate Master can just do a one shot and game over. Well, to be fair, the laser, the bubble doesn't matter.
Well, it's Cabbage realizing he was not going to be able to get him before the laser section, very wisely getting over that Pirate Master where the laser never really aims, timing his cannon jumps and using his hat to avoid that damage and finishing the fight. So GG to Cabbage as well with a 56.22 real time, ending with an official SRL time of 56.24. So well done by Cabbage given the poor RNG. And it looks like I've got both of them lined up for an interview. So Turkey, I might well go ahead and pull them in.
You go and do that, good sir.
That wasn't that right. Hello, Mamgar. Hello, Cabbage.
Hey, JT.
Hey, Mamgar. GG is. We got it. We want to confirm with you right up front. Is that an actual PB for you?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, what are you talking about?
I mean, a PB's a PB, but I think the only good boss fight I had was Ammo Bear, and it was all downhill from there. Well, Pirate Master went well, but...
Yeah, I was going to say that Pirate Master fight was extremely clean by comparison, but I know what you mean when you say that you don't feel that the other fights went too well. I didn't see too much wrong with them overall, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But still, fair play to you. GG, congrats on the PB, even if it's a minor one. A PB is still a PB. So, well played to you on that one.
Yeah, thank you.
And my next question will be, how did you feel about that RNG? Because I felt like the game was feeding you left and right for a good chunk of it at least.
It was very good RNG. I had an extra super pike ball left over at the end, and I used an extra one.
Yeah.
Of course, I also bought an extra one, but...
Yeah, I mean, most of the RNG went pretty favourable to you. I mean, one of the only real exceptions was the bubble shield, but thankfully that was at least a cheap pickup, and taking the extra super monster milk just to give you the additional DPS out for the end game. So overall, nicely done. As I said, GG again on the PB, man.
Thank you.
I've got to keep saying that. I see PB, I get excited.
Turkey enjoys his PBs. What can you say? All right, Cabbage, I'm showing is muted, so I don't know if he can hear us. I'd like to ask him some questions.
Oh, hey, hi.
Hey, there you are. Hey.
My bad.
GG on the run, Cabbage. Congrats on finishing. And it was actually pretty solid considering, I mean, and I'll ask you the same question we kind of asked Mamgar. How did you feel about your RNG? And adversely, though, it felt like it was very, very Spartan throughout the entire run, but want to get your perspective on it.
Yeah, I was having some Vietnam flashbacks because of the last race, towards the beginning, but the past 10 line tempo, the game, started giving me a lot of stuff, and I didn't have to go back for a third shop, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's always a nice thing. I at least say I could probably guarantee you made at least someone happy in regards to your run write-ups. Unfortunately, unfortunately, it took a lot of tongue death throughout that section. I'm probably going to guess you're not going to want to see that area for a while.
Yeah, that was interesting. Shantae just really was attracted to the tongues there. She just really wanted it. I don't know why. She gets like that sometimes.
I'm not saying nothing.
Well, I was afraid you were going to bring up Run Rowdy Tops, Mamgar. I hate to bring that up, but that Gates of Hell room was not kind to you either.
I can't believe I got sniped by the guy. The second death was my fault, but the first death, I know they can do that, but I wasn't expecting him to do that.
Yeah, that pincer that you got stuck in between, it was just, you don't normally see that. I mean, that's really bad RNG and very unfortunate, but I was like, oh god, Turkey, don't mention that room because Mamgar's not going to be happy about that. Here we are. At any rate,
my bad.
Any other thoughts you guys had? I mean, I know this concludes kind of Group Shantae. Mamgar, you're going to finish with a 2-2. Cabbage with a 1-3. Both really solid, though. I mean, watching Mamgar, I know you haven't run this game in quite some time, but seeing you come back and still pull, 55s and 54s pretty consistently, it's been really good to watch you de-rest. So how does it feel, having come back after a while and being able to participate in something like this and see how you've adjusted to the new strats? I mean, how do you feel about all that?
The new strats, I would actually say I've adjusted a little bit poorly to. I haven't been going for too many of them, and some of the ones I was going to, I've been doing wrong. Like, I think the animation cancel for picking up keys, I don't think I actually know the proper way to do that, but I have a vague idea it's eating an item over the thing, but still, it's very fun to come back. It's good to see that a lot of my muscle memory for at least the stuff you would see in the any percent out of bounds route that I was very familiar with.
Oh, I wasn't sure. Did he cut out?
Hello?
Yeah,
Hi.
There you are.
Oh, I guess I cut out.
You were saying about the strats and the any percent, going around, but I don't know that we have a lot of time. So really quick, Cabbage, just final thoughts for you on the tournament, how you performed and things like that?
I didn't die.
Yes, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. All right, I think that we got to get out of the way for another race. Just to let you guys know, we do have one more on the docket for Shantae tonight. That'll be on, I want to say Speed Gaming 4, 10 p.m. Eastern. And that will be our final race in Group Sky, Amethyst SPR versus Lock Madonna. I want to take a moment to tell the chat, please follow our two runners, Cabbage Game and Mamgar, both very good speed runners in everything that they do and talented streamers. And follow Turkey619, world record holder of pretty much every category in Shantae. Almost across the board except for Risky's Revenge, I'd say. So he's really, really good, really entertaining, and a good fellow in general. So drop some love, give those guys a follow. And I think, again, Speed Gaming for hosting and restreaming for us. Greatly appreciate everything that Fiesel and the Speed Gaming crew have done for us as well. So appreciate that. And if anyone doesn't have any final words, I will bid you all adieu.
I
want to say.
Okay, quick
sorry,
circle.
go on. I was just going to say, make sure to follow Nori as well. Great man, and pretty much one of the gurus of this series, knows pretty much everything that has to do with the speedrunning side, as well as just Shantae in general, to be fair. So, and again, a great man in general. So, be sure to show your love. Sorry, different.
Especially want to say special shout outs to JT for setting up the tournaments. This wouldn't have happened without him.
Very true. Very true.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. All right, well, we'll get out of Speed Gaming's way, allow them to get set up for their next upcoming match. I'm not sure what that is, but definitely hang around, and we'll catch you all in the next Shantae race. So we'll see you then later.
Take care, everyone.
See ya.